Hi, welcome back to the Bodacious Bunch YouTube channel. Today we are doing our first ever top 10 video. Today's episode we are specifically discussing the top 10 best beginner games for Nancy Drew and new players. So we're basically going to be talking about how these games could potentially lure a new player into the iconic series of Nancy Drew.
So at number 10, we decided to choose Treasure in the Royal Tower. And I think this is a perfect game to introduce someone to the series with. It's very simple, nothing too, intimidating for a new player. And right off the bat, the game really gives you no sense of direction, it actually works pretty well for this game. All Nancy really says is she needs to find a mailbox. And you basically have free roam of the castle. You can go talk to whoever you want, you can go explore. And for a brand new player, it feels very fresh to be able to just, kind of do things at your own pace and, get used to the controls, get used to the mechanics of the games, like talking to people, snooping around. And the time mechanic is a huge part of that too, letting you snoop around at night. You can set your alarm clock for whatever time you want to. And there's just such a sense of freedom with the game right off the bat, which is pretty good for new players. Puzzles are pretty simple. There's nothing too crazy. The characters are really fun. There's one character that you could argue doesn't really deserve to be there, but it's a minor glare in the game. The history in the game is really interesting, which is something that a lot of Nancy Drew games do. There's the current mystery, and there's also this mystery. It takes place in the past, and they sort of lap over each other and correlate with one another. And it works really well in this game, and the whole subplot with the medallions tie into that too. All the characters feel important, like they're supposed to be there, that they've been brought there for a reason to sort of find this treasure. The music is really good. The whole game is just really cozy. Feels really nice. Nothing stressful really happens in the game, so it's nice to sort of just unwind at the end of the day, play some Treasure in the Royal Tower.
Yeah, and I do really think it is a cozy game. So I think that's kind of, the main thing I think someone should focus on if they're into that sort of thing. Just something to get cozy with, you know what I mean?
The soundtrack complements this whole cozy thing pretty well as well.
At number 9, we have my first ever Nancy Drew game, which is Legend of the Crystal Skull. And right away, it just has an amazing introduction, such a good intro. It gives you a disclaimer saying it's best to play the game, with all of your lights turned off, or if it's still daytime, just draw the shades. And right away, that totally adds to, the atmosphere, and it totally gets you going oh my gosh, why is it telling me to do this? And we get an awesome cutscene where Nancy walks into this house and she gets attacked right away. And then following up on that, we meet two of our characters from that game. And right away, they're bickering with each other. There's funny dialogue, and it's just amazing. It's so quotable. And the mystery itself is just so good. It's so thrilling. We're trying to figure out, who attacked Nancy, but then we also learn about the Legend of the Crystal Skull, which is the title of the game. And something that's totally cool about this game is that not only do you play as Nancy, you play as her friend Bess, and she probably even has the best parts of the game. They're so fun.
Bess. I'm not good at that sneaking around stuff, Nancy. I get nervous, my tongue gets all knotted up, my palms sweat, to say nothing of my armpits.
Bess. It's actually so thrilling because, you find out that this supposed crystal skull that one of the characters from this game owned, apparently it's supposed to make them immortal, but this character actually ended up dying anyway. So this whole time, you're starting to think, wait a minute, what if he was murdered instead? Which totally adds to it, and it's kind of like a subplot almost. And it's just such a good progression, just the whole game. It's, very step by step. You know what you need to do. You really get the hang of it. And again, with the characters, Henry and Renee, very quotable, very memorable characters. Lamont is the character you interact with when you're playing as Bess, along with Dr. Buford. They are also great as well, especially Lamont with his instant fits, obviously. And phone calls, you call an authenticator. It's pretty hilarious, and it's actually mind-blowing because you learn something really interesting about it. And it really makes you think, like, oh my gosh, like, that's not what I've been being told this whole time. And of course, we get Hotchkiss, and she's a character originally from the previous game that we talked about for this list, which was Treasure in the Royal Tower. And she comes back as a phone contact, which is super cool. She's an awesome character.
Yes, hello?
Hi, my name's Nancy Drew. Is this Professor Hotchkiss?
I am she, Nancy Drew. Your name has a ring to it.
Puzzles are just really, really fun. And there's just this whole scavenger hunt, and it's just amazing. You're looking for all of these eyeballs, and if you're new, you may be wondering, why on earth am I even looking for eyeballs? But it totally ties in, we promise. Atmosphere is gorgeous. It's raining, and you can hear the rain, and oh my gosh, it's just so calming. It's amazing. And of course, we have to mention probably one of the best parts of this game, which is specifically the Legend track from the soundtrack. It's just so amazing. It's the perfect song, to kind of sleuth to. At least I think so. And who doesn't love animals? Like, there are pets in this game, literally an iguana and an honest-to-goodness fucking crocodile, which is awesome. Who doesn't love that? And the ending, oh my gosh, is it intense? It's awesome. There's a great reveal. There's a great, scene in the ending where the Legend track plays in the background. It's so good. It totally fits. So it really does make for a good scavenger hunt overall. Very unique cutscenes, and it's just amazing. And yeah, that's Legend of the Crystal Skull.
Those dogs, out of nowhere. I mean, they're just outside howling and snarling. Teeth and claws. Horrible.
Dogs? Hello? Did you say dogs?
So coming in at number 8 is the second spookiest game in the series. After Message in the Haunted Mansion, then came the 7th game in the series, Ghost Dogs in Moon Lake. I really love this game. It used to terrify me when I first played this years ago when I was only about 10 years old. So when you start the game, it's just intense immediately. Mysterious ghost dogs haunting your friend's house, and you're basically trying to find out, why is this happening? So immediately there's a great cutscene with spooky lighting that goes off in the middle of it, a phone call that gets cut off, a random stranger popping up to let you know the lore of these ghost dogs and why they're here, as well as ghost dogs actually attacking the house. So you get a great intro, probably one of the best intros to any of the games in the series, so you're going to be invested almost immediately. So you can explore the woods either at nighttime or daytime, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to just kind of do what you want and just kind of explore at your own will or your own risk, depending on how afraid you are of these dogs, actually. But it also leads into finding out the lore and the backstory of this leading to a Prohibition gangster. And that mystery leads into an even bigger one of where is his $1 million golden loot. You're really trying to explore so many different mysteries that are happening at once, and it really propels you to find out what's happening, why it's happening, and just put an end to it to help your friend out. I'd also say the puzzles are really great in this game. They're so unique to the story and unique to this game alone, really, because you really get the character of the house as well as the person who owned the house and even the dogs who used to live here. And all of these elements come together to create really interesting puzzles that aren't too hard and not too simple either, so you get a really good challenge of both. And you get some really great characters along with these puzzles. So if you're, looking to stray away from puzzles, you can always go into these really interesting characters that all have really interesting motives of maybe why they would want to get rid of your friend. So you're going to have really good conversations and dialogue with them, as well as, funny phone characters as well. And I think this is really the game where phone conversations really come into play and some of the best in the game.
You're selling something half price now.
If you reach
I got
50
an air horn in
subscribers,
my
we'll
hand
change
that
it for
can
a
deafen
week.
a dinosaur, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Oh, no, no.
This is a great game to start off with too, just because Nancy has notes with her. So if you're stuck at any point, you can check your pager. Very telling to the time it was released, but it's super helpful of what to do next, or clues, or any notes that Nancy needs to write down to solve a puzzle. That's going to help you out too. But overall, it's a great game. There's a lot of tension. You can get ghost dogs attacking, or you're getting burned up in a shed. Who knows? But you're going to get a great mix of both. Good build-up, overall great progression, and a lot of really interesting story overall.
At least I can kick.
Coming in at number 7, we have Ghost of Thornton Hall. One of the, as you would say, newer Nancy Drew games with one of the newer kind of engines that they've used. So right away, it's just an intricate story. It's a really interesting story. This game is definitely on the spookier side. Once again, we have characters, and they're all suspicious and sketchy in their own ways. There's definitely something going on with this family that you're learning about. And the Thornton family, just in general, is just really fun to learn about. I think the background, the information, and you get to learn the history of all of them and why they're, how they are today. And you learn about the traumatic experience they've all had when a dear member of their family has passed away due to unfortunate circumstances. And that same family member, you supposedly see hauntings of her ghost around, the house and the graveyard. It's just really spooky if you're into that, and it really fits in with the atmosphere too. And a really cool thing about this game as well is that there's 3 different endings. So you literally get to, decide for yourself. You get to choose everyone's fate. It's really interesting in the end there. There's 3 possible endings, and it's really cool. Her Interactive could have done that more, but they did it for this game, and it really worked out well. It was super cool.
Yeah, I like how every single ending kind of gives its own implications on what the story meant. Depending on what ending you get, it kind of changes your outlook on the entire story, what it means.
Puzzles are pretty fun. I personally enjoy the cotton gin and the portrait puzzle. And Harper, who is a character, has some pretty fun riddles. Of course, we have the memorable hauntings, of course. It really kind of gets to you. It is definitely spooky. They did a good job of, kind of making you jump at times because you don't expect a lot of them to happen. Hello, Charlotte. The more you play the game, the more invested you are to the story, for sure. And of course, there's the handy-dandy task list, and they added in a cool feature later on in the games where if you're lost and you need a hint, the game itself will actually provide hints for you. And if you've completely given up because it happens sometimes, it happens to the best of us, it will literally give you the solution. Although you won't get a certain award at the end, but that's okay. And, it's just exploring, every part of the game. It's just so cool, and I personally really enjoy that. Thornton Hall is such an interesting place, and you get this uneasy feeling, but at the same time you really need to find out, like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on, like, what is happening. Supposedly someone got kidnapped. You're trying to find them, although you don't really know if it was a kidnapping. They could have left on their own, or perhaps a ghost could have taken them. It all revolves kind of around the same idea there. And the more you play the game, you continue to find more areas, which is really cool. And overall, based on all of those points, I also think Ghost of Thornton Hall could be in game for a new player.
Jessalyn! This isn't funny! Where are you? Jessie! I don't want to be alone. Please stop.
No, wait. Just tell me about the Phantom Horse?
So coming in at number 6, we've got Secret of Shadow Ranch, also based on the classic yellow hardcover by Carolyn Keene and the 10th game in the Nancy Drew series. I think this is a great one to start off with, just because, if you're more familiar with the books, I think you'll get a really good exploration into, the gaming side of the books as well, and how they kind of enhanced on certain characters and really embellished them and gave them the really distinct personalities. So you get a lot of interesting stuff from the book, and then as well as a lot of new stuff too. But this is a great mystery, because when you first arrive at the ranch, we were visiting Bess and George's aunt and uncle who own this ranch, and you're just visiting them to basically have a vacation, classic, busman's holiday as they call it, where you go on vacation but you end up doing the job you were supposed to do anyway. So right here we've got, you're trying to find out why the Raleighs, who are the people who own the ranch, have been getting all these accidents, as well as they themselves being injured by a rattlesnake, and they're not even at the ranch anymore. So as Nancy, you're really trying to help Bess and George, the aunt and uncle as well, and try to help them, get back on their feet and figure out why someone's trying to do these terrible things to them, which leads into the progression of another mystery of a historical romance as well, very similar to a lot of the other games, but this one's a really good progression into finding out the lost loot of a old West outlaw and his lover named Francis Humber, who used to also live on the ranch back in the 1800s. So you get a really good mix of these two mysteries, and together you get this really intense, interesting, and romantic mystery that will just keep you interested the whole way through. And then along with the mystery, you've got some really interesting characters as well. You've got the cook, and you've got the ranch hand who might have a crush on Nancy. You'll have to explore that for yourself. As well as, the rough, gritty Texas Ranger kind of person as, the one who takes care of the horses, as well as a shopkeeper who owns a little tourist shop in Arizona, which is where the game takes place. So you've got a lot of memorable characters and a lot of great moments. Sometimes when I even replay the game, I was like, oh, I get so shocked at some of the things that these characters do and they say. So you're always going to be entertained by them, absolutely. There's this one fantastic scene at the end of one of the days in the game, and you'll just be in stitches, really, because it's just so fun, entertaining. And so you'll get a lot of great funny moments as well as really intense moments, because it's a 3-day structure, so every day there's going to be some kind of mystery or accident, as well as a visit from the ghost horse. So you'll get a lot of interesting content as the days go on.
Lamb ragout for your information, and it was great. If you couldn't appreciate it, it's because your taste buds are about as sophisticated as a sand flea's.
I think I'll turn in too. Night, ma'am. Next time, just stick to burgers.
Et tu, Brute? You see that? You see what I put up with? Day in and day out, I cast my culinary pearls before ungrateful, uncultured swine. Well, I'll show them.
I would say that this is one of the best games with puzzles that are as well very specific to the game as well as the characters in them. So you'll get little love letters, hidden bottles that you'll need to find, as well as tuning forks to play a musical tune. So it really not only tells who the characters were, but just kind of the timing as well. And these are kind of things that you would find in the 1800s. Tuning forks you may not find today, but that was more of a thing back then. So it's a great mix of, you know, finding old mixed with new, and you know, you're kind of like a current and past detective, and it's really fun to just uncover all this as you go along. And I think it's one of the best progressions of the game, you know, as you go on in this 3-day structure, which is great if you're looking to take a break, you know, finish at day 1, start on day 2 the next day. So it's a great reason for that. But I would say you do make a lot of progress. You can tell when you're making progress. You'd be like, oh, on this day I found this, which unlocks this on the 3rd day. So there's so much progress being made. You're going to feel like you're making a lot of exploration in the game too, and there's always going to just be something to do, which is what I just love about this game, is you'll always find something to do.
I think I'll grab Bob and head out in that direction.
I think one of the things that maybe some people don't really agree with, but I think is a great addition, is you feel like you're on a ranch. You know, you will have chores, you know, collecting eggs and maybe some vegetables as well as feeding the animals. But that's kind of what adds to the charm of it. You know, you're helping out on a working ranch and the owners aren't there to help out. So you've got to like pitch in and, you know, do your share. So I think it really just adds to the atmosphere of working on a cattle ranch in Arizona. You know, you get to ride horses and do lasso and climb on cliff dwellings. And it just does a great exploration of kind of Arizona itself, as well as the setting. So I think it's one of the best for that. So yeah, I think this is, you know, you're going to find some interesting interactions with characters too that will spread suspicion. You get to do a little bit of snooping, some surprise elements along the way. And you're just going to have a great time with this. It's one of the best open map games in the world. Maybe if you're more into open map games in usual, I think this is a great one to start with, because you'll have a lot of places to explore and more places that become unlockable as you make more progress in the game. So I think this is a great one to start off with. A Western, a historical romance, mystery, sabotage, all rolled into one to make a fantastic game.
Hello?
Listen carefully. If they knock the theater down, the girl goes with it.
What? Who is this?
For the 5th game on our list, which is ironically actually the 5th Nancy Drew game, is the final scene, which is one of my favorite Nancy Drew games. And right off the bat, I just have to mention, there is never a dull moment. It's such a great game overall, because, you know, there's something interesting going on to the story and to the game literally in every moment. There's tension, we've got suspense, you're having so much fun, and, you know, there's comedy, and comedy is always a really good trait too. It really all fits in together perfectly. So Nancy is trying to find her friend Maya, who has been kidnapped, and that's why it's so, you know, why there's so much suspense and why there's tension, and it's just so personal, because this is a case, you know, where Nancy feels personally attached to the victim, and so you really kind of feel the exact same emotions that Nancy is feeling.
Here I go. Cross your fingers, there's a story behind this door.
Go get 'em, Scoop.
Meet you in the lobby.
Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Is this thing on? Hello?
Think I'll go check out the snacks. That sounds like Maya. Help! Nancy!
And just the dialogue in this game is so terrific. Talking to all of the characters is so fun. There are so many quotes, and there are so many things that they say that is just so quotable. It's so memorable. It's absolutely fun. It's terrific.
No groupies in the dressing rooms. But since you're such a rascally fan, what would you say to a signed autograph from yours truly?
Listen, sweetheart, I have a premiere tonight and no stylist for my star, so don't tell me about problems.
Oh, teeny boppers till showtime. House rules.
But if I'm ever hard-pressed for entertainment, I'm sure kidnapping would be a real hoot.
All right, Officer Nancy, chill out, will ya? I'm on your side.
The puzzles for this game are really simple, and I think they're honestly the perfect puzzles for, someone new to the series and also maybe someone who's just new to puzzles in general. They're very simple and very good for someone who you would say is a beginner. And to also talk a little bit more about dialogue, we have some really fun phone calls and characters that are just so worth talking to. Even if the conversations tend to be a little long, it really is worth it because you get Eustacia Andropov, and she's probably the best phone contact in that game.
Can you tell me anything more?
More? I'm 96 over here. I don't exactly have time to burn.
All of the characters, they are just so suspicious. It's so hard to tell, who's more suspicious, who's, the least suspicious. They're all, in their own ways, just so... It's really hard to describe it because as much as you don't want to believe that any of these potential suspects could actually be a kidnapper, the fact is one of them actually is, because how else would you explain Maya's disappearance? It does a great job at just spreading suspicion. It's just really amazing, and especially for someone who likes that sort of thing where they're playing a game and there's a lot of suspense and it gets your adrenaline going and your heart is beating at an irregular pace. I personally am such a big fan of that kind of concept, and I think if someone were to agree, they should definitely play this game. And there are moments, really good moments, where Nancy gets to do some snooping. You're snooping through people's things. You're finding stuff out about them, and you can confront them because they've lied to you about a few things. And of course, that also adds on to the dialogue. It's just amazing. Nancy's sass in this game is just my favorite ever. It's so funny. It really screams girl power. And you just, while you're playing the game, you're just like, oh my gosh, that was so clever. This is just so good. Whoever wrote this is just a genius.
That's funny. I don't see any gun to your head, just a wad of money dangling in front of your nose.
And we also have a 3-day structure. So we start off with day 1, which is when the kidnapping happened, and Nancy's investigating and she's interrogating people and she's trying to find, evidence of what could have happened. And then she finds evidence. And then in the second day, you kind of learn more about the suspects and the characters, and you learn more about how they could be suspicious in their own ways. And Nancy's going around finding even more evidence. There's even a moment in the second game where you think you might have solved the mystery. You think you might have actually found Maya. But then we go to the third day, and that's where things get really intense. But while this is all happening, the theater you are staying at and investigating is supposed to be demolished in literally 3 days. So this entire time you have to remember, oh my gosh, if I don't find Maya, who is supposedly in this building, she is going to go down with the theater if I don't find her. And that whole concept is so scary, it's so thrilling, it's just really awesome if you ask me. And for this game, it probably has my favorite ending personally out of all of the endings. It's, oh my gosh, there's so much action. And the music that plays in the background while things get even more intense by the second, it just really adds to it. And it's just one of those moments, where you really feel oh my gosh, I have to be careful. If I mess something up, I'll be putting someone at risk. And that's something I really enjoy in a video game, where it makes me feel like that. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the final scene.
So, coming in at number 4, we've got Warnings at Waverly Academy, the 21st game in the series. The game starts off with Nancy going to a private boarding school for high school high school kids that are about to be seniors in high school and about to go on their way to college. And you're trying to figure out why there's been so much sabotage lately. It does take place in a boarding school, an all-girls boarding school. So of course you're going to get some fantastic characters, which you do in this game. Each character, there are 5 in total, they have so much variety to them. They've got such a unique, fun, interesting personality that makes you really interested in talking to them. They have their own way of speaking, especially since they're all from all over the United States. So they have their each personality that makes them just unique to this game alone, as well as how they interact with Nancy and interacting with other classmates as well. And of course, since all of these are teenage girls, you're going to get a lot of gossip. You can talk to the characters about one another, find out their interests and what they think about each other, as well as, events that unravel where maybe two girls that detest each other may actually be best friends.
There's no way.
There's always something happening. There's some great reveals that maybe you may think of a character one way, but then they turn out totally different the other way, and it'll totally change your perspective during the rest of the game. So any one of these could be the saboteur and, the abuser to any of these girls, and you're just kind of going through the motions as well as solving puzzles to just get a great mystery overall.
And I love just how alive all the characters feel. You can tell throughout the game that they're talking behind your back. They're all interacting with each other. It just makes everything feel more alive and engaging, I guess, with the story.
I'm just gonna act like nothing's wrong. If she's got the guts to bring up the subject, fine. But I'm not gonna say a word. Nope. I'm gonna let her wonder just how and when I'm going to get back at her. Because I will definitely get back at her.
I think this game, while it does offer some really good puzzles, there are some challenging ones, so you can take a break from those and, play some air hockey with one of the girls, or play with the dartboard with her either. So, as well as doing Snack Shop Boss, where you'll make snacks for the girls, and let me tell you, I know it sounds weird, but this will get addictive real fast.
Pick up.
Order up.
So, it's a great mix of puzzles, but also interaction with the characters. And then if you want to take a break and just have some fun, I think it offers some great items like that too, as well as, matching games and all that. So it's a really good mix of all the above that makes it a really fun game. And you'll never be bored or, tired of doing a puzzle because you always have something to do.
This game is very relaxing, both because of the whole school atmosphere and the characters who are honestly pretty friendly to you, as well as just the amount of mini games that you can do to just have a good time with this game.
This is also one of the first games in this series where Nancy actually has a smart cell phone. You can customize it, change colors, and receive really groundbreaking events during the game, which doesn't really happen in any other game as much as this one. So I think this is one that just offers so much in terms of uniqueness, especially the atmosphere, because you're in an all-girl boarding school, so you're going to have a school-like environment. You've got a curfew, you've got demerit systems. If you do something wrong, you'll get demerits. False fire alarm, you'll get demerits for that. But then if you return a book to the library that you found lost, you get credits. So it's a great interaction of a school atmosphere, trying to hide from someone when you're out past curfew. You get that tension feeling that's really great. So it really does hone in on that school atmosphere, hearing the gossip, talking about teachers, school assignments, helping girls with their homework, exploring the grounds. It adds so much in terms of the uniqueness and atmosphere that just really builds onto it. Overall, this is a great game. Lots of fun dialogue with all the characters, a great reveal, as well as, a progression in the plot that starts off with trying to find a saboteur to maybe a mystery involving Edgar Allan Poe's death. But I think this is one of the best because there's always some event going on.
What was that?
Everything's alright. Just go back to sleep. Anyone who leaves her room gets 5 demerits.
whether there is some blackmail, sabotage, secret societies, you name it, it'll probably be in this game. But there's just going to be a lot happening. And you can just interact with all the characters, and each character is going to have a different reaction to what's happening, which adds to the total uniqueness of this game and the total uniqueness of all these characters. It's a great game for just mixing of mysteries, dialogue, characters, and it's probably one of the best in the series as well.
Oh, hang on tight, and don't forget to try for the brass ring.
Alright, so at number 3, we have game number 8, the Haunted Carousel. Well, when it comes to getting a new player to really get giddy about playing an NCG game, what I think of is, like, just tell them that you get to explore a whole amusement park by yourself. And of course, with this amusement park motif, there comes a lot of mini games that you have to do. They're all very fun, they're all pretty relaxing. You really get to, like, feel like you're in an amusement park having fun, while at the same time you have a pretty cool mystery where there's this carousel horse that has been stolen from the park, as well as this roller coaster accident that has happened, and the park is being right now sued by this man who has broken his neck on this roller coaster accident. So there's really quite a bit of money on the line for the park's boss who has hired you here, like some kind of obligation to solve this, because you can't really disappoint your boss and like make her lose a bunch of money, such and such, you know. And another thing that this game, personally, I think excels at is that there's a lot of characters that you meet in this game. You can meet the park's security guard, the artist, the bookkeeper, and the park's engineer, and they're all like incredibly funny. There's a lot of really good dialogue with them, and you get to talk to them quite a bit. Another thing that this game does great with its characters is it spreads suspicions pretty well. You get to learn a lot of stuff about the characters and the shady things that they do behind the scenes. And a good reason about it is because throughout the game, you get to pretty much snoop every character's place in this game. At various points in the game, there's points where all of these characters, like, they're not there. So you get to, like, just go to their room and look at their stuff and learn, wow, this character is kind of shady. And you really don't know which character is really behind this. Both the roller coaster accident as well as the phantom, like, the horse theft. Yes. As well as that, we have a pretty good subplot with the park's bookkeeper, Joy Trent, who's trying to retrieve her lost memories of her childhood, and Nancy gets to help her on this emotional journey, which kind of, in the end, weaves in with the main plot about the accidents, and leads to a pretty emotionally satisfying ending, if I'm honest. As well as that, this game is quite the step up in terms of quality of life. If you're ever lost, you can go to Nancy's hotel room at any time, and there's notes that Nancy writes about the case, as well as the first, chronologically, the first task list ever in an Nancy Drew game, which can really help you if you're getting stuck. Can remind you where you need to go or what you need to do. As well as that, Nancy, for the first time in this series, Nancy has a cell phone in this game, so you can call your friends Bess and George at anywhere in the game. As well as that, this game definitely makes a good use of the cell phone, because there's a lot of phone characters that you can contact in this game. The dialogue in this game is, as a whole, really great. The phone characters included.
Sorry, I don't feel like talking right now. My back's kinda sore, probably because somebody just got done stabbing me there.
Pretty much every character has at least one quote you can remember them by. As well as that, your boss says a lot of funny stuff when you game over or like otherwise get in the hospital in this game. And there's a lot of moments like that.
Yeah, another thing I absolutely love about the Haunted Carousel is that if you do get a death or a game over sequence, it's just absolutely hilarious. Like, you don't regret it. It's like, thank God I've seen this. It's so memorable. Thank you for yelling at me, you really stupid boss, but yeah.
But the arcade games, oh, they're so fun, and it's just a nice break of pace, too, to just
Definitely
relax, take a break, and just play some games.
Yeah, it pretty much also kind of ties in with the puzzles. The puzzles also at times really feel like they're also just mini games, and I just think they're totally enjoyable.
And as well, I'd say that this game has like maintains a great balance of comedy and like serious spooky stuff. Because like one moment you're talking to the park's artist about like procrastination and he's like joking around, and the other moment your foot is stuck under the railway for the roller coaster, and it's full speed ahead. It's a pretty fun game, and I'd say that for a new player, this is a pretty good choice.
Oh no! How are we gonna get out of this alive?
Died on it while they were going to the gold fields. It was rumored to be haunted.
Alright, and coming in at number 2, we have game number 13, Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. Right off the bat, in the first like 5 minutes of this game, they throw so much at you. There's so many characters that you get introduced to in this really cool cutscene, and they each have like their own unique purpose of being on this train with Nancy and the Hardy Boys, which is just such an interesting team up already. And you get so much interesting backstory about like what the mystery is. You find out that this train was found in the middle of the desert, completely abandoned except for the engineer who was just dead on board. Nobody knows why. So right off the bat, they throw some spooky subplots at you, and also this whole other subplot of this treasure that apparently the train's owner, Jay Curley, had found. Basically, he found this gold mine and kept it hidden from everybody so that he could come back into town and flaunt his wealth around. So everybody knew that he had this gold mine. It wasn't a secret. He just didn't tell anyone where it was. And then also the hostess just straight up disappears. And nobody knows where she is. And this all happens in the first 5 minutes. So you've got a ton of different things going on at once. You've got these scary subtexts of there might be ghosts on the train because Camille, his wife, had died on the train. And you see some like spooky lights and you hear some ghostly recordings. So there's a good mix of, I guess, scary stuff. There's also obviously the historical aspect of trying to find this hidden treasure. And then also you've got the disappearance as well. So there's like 3 distinct mysteries in one that you're solving throughout the entire game. It's really exciting, and the people that you get to meet throughout this game are so fun, and they each bring their own stuff to the mystery. You've got the Hardy Boys, who you team up with, basically. And they're so great. They're so funny. They have one of the most iconic cutscenes in the whole series that involves cheeseburgers.
When you stopped there so Joe could get a hamburger.
Cheeseburger.
You've got Charlena Purcell, who actually returns from another game we talked about, Secret of Shadow Ranch. Although this time she's in the flesh. She doesn't remember Nancy, so if you've never played Shadow Ranch, don't worry, it won't be too important. But she's sort of like the historical background person. She gives you a lot of information about Jay Curley and Camille. And you've got Tino Balducci, the detective, and he's sort of just this arrogant detective that honestly really doesn't even deserve the status he has. He's just in the right place at the right time, sort of uses that to his advantage. So Nancy and the Hardy Boys are way more competent than he is, but a good part of the game is, trying to have to work around him and, maybe wait till he's gone to actually do the detective work you need to do. So it's really fun, and also he's just got some great moments too. John Gray, he brings sort of the supernatural aspect to the characters. He's the one that'll talk to you about the ghosts on the train of Camille. And he's got these like really interesting like ghost pictures and recordings that he'll show you throughout, which is all really fun. And then of course you've got Laurie Gerard, the hostess, who's this like Paris Hilton like Barbie character, but she's so obnoxious that it's funny. I love talking to her. Really all the characters in this game stand out. They're so memorable. It's one of the best parts of the game. And they each bring their own sort of comedy, I guess, to the game as well, because they're all very quotable.
I've seen enough. 2 words. Useless.
And the puzzles, they're not very hard. There's a decent amount, and a lot of them are pretty simple to figure out. You just use the resources on the train. Similarly to Shadow Ranch, they each have like their own personality with them too, because the puzzles were specifically created for somebody. And so there's like a nice intertwining of like learning history and solving puzzles. They coincide pretty well. And I love the progression in this game too, because it starts out sort of you're on the train and you get to get familiar with the train. And just the train itself, it's so interesting. The fact that they were able to make each car really feel unique and like full of personality, like Camille's car versus the dining car versus the caboose. They're all very different and they just each look beautiful in their own right. It's so fun to just walk around this train and just take in your surroundings. And it's just that atmosphere itself too. It's like very Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express. It's just being on a train. It's so cool. And the next place that you get to go to is this old town, Copper Gorge. There's a lot of real fun stuff to do there too. There's a creepy cemetery. There's my favorite character in the game, Fatima, who works at a store. And they're just a hilarious character. I love talking to them.
Unless you go messing with the artifacts I got in here. Do that and you'll be headfirst in the nearest snowdrift before you know what hit you.
Then you get to go, finally, at the very end, you get to go to the actual gold mine itself. And it's a really fun final puzzle. It sort of like builds on everything that you've been learning throughout the game. It's pretty challenging, but it's the final puzzle, so it makes sense. And then the finale, the like end game moment, I guess, it's really intense. It's really fun and super unique. They've tried stuff like it again, but it definitely has never come close to just how intense and fun it is in this game.
This orca showed up in the channel, and now it... Oh my gosh, what happened?
Now it's time for the number 1.
Someone tore
the most bodacious game a new player can play. Give it up for game number 9, Danger on Deception Island. This game, I'd say, has the perfect amount of everything that the new player can ever desire. There's a good amount of puzzles in this game, there's a very big variety of them, and I'd say that if this is a game that you are like looking to play with your child or some such, I'd say that this game is very educational. A lot of the puzzles have to do with like nautical themes. There's flags, there's, you know, chess, royal flushes, Morse code, such and such. You get to learn a lot of new stuff in this game.
I personally think for this game, there's a really nice amount of puzzles, and it's not really just, you know, the puzzles itself. I think they're really a good combination for a new player, which is the goal here, you know, to lure a new player into the series, and I think the puzzles really do that really well.
Yeah, there's a couple of puzzles that they throw at you right at the beginning. They're not complicated at all. They're honestly really fun, and it's a great way to introduce someone to the puzzles of the Nancy Drew games, I think.
And the story of this game isn't too shabby either. It has to deal with this orca that has separated from her pod and wound up in the waters near this town called Snake Course Harbor. And the residents of this town are in a hot debate as to whether the orca should be left to her own devices or if they should get the orca out of here as soon as possible. Because the whole town's economy runs on fishing, and fishermen can't afford to just swim around the orca. the whole time. So this leads us nicely into the characters, such as the person who brought you onto this island, who is the only one who has permission to get her boat to the Orca. There's also this guy who runs the local museum, who does whale watching tours, who you can go into his museums and do a bunch of quizzes. He's a very funny guy. There's this local cafe owner who also doesn't like the person who brought you in here. And there's this old fisherman who wants to run for harbor master, and he also doesn't like the person who brought you in here because he just wants the Orca out of here as fast as possible. Another thing about the characters in this game is that whenever you talk to them, you don't really know who to believe or whether to believe what they're saying at all, because of how much disdain they have for, the person that got you here.
Of course, it's the way she makes her living being hurt by that whale. Why, no. Her business is booming. Now, ain't that the oddest thing?
The dialogue in this game in general is, I'd say, quite great, as well as the in-the-flesh suspects. There's also quite a number of phone characters that you have to call, and they're all I think they're all pretty good. They're really fun to talk to.
I just got done emailing you something.
What?
I said, I just got done emailing you something.
Great, thanks. Well, goodbye, Casey.
Goodbye, Caddy.
I certainly hope he doesn't operate heavy machinery.
Another quite great quality about this game is the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is quite great, probably one of the best soundtracks in an Nancy Drew game, period. It definitely adds to the atmosphere. You really feel like you're on this town on the coast of Deception Island.
And as someone who has lived in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, we could talk hours and hours about how the atmosphere is, but they really do nail it on the head. The biking is great addition to every Pacific Northwesterner who owns a bike. You're just gonna feel like you're totally there. The clam chowder adds so much. The fogginess, it all creates this wonderful atmosphere that's so right on the head. And it's just gonna make you so excited to play it every time, with kayaking, exploring old lighthouses, everything the Pacific Northwest has to offer, you'll get in this game.
And I think, bringing a new player to the series and introducing them to Danger on Deception Island would definitely get them craving more.
Oh yeah, there's great tones of really everything the games do in that one game. You've got, the whole historical subplot. You've got there's even spooky stuff that happens, especially when you're down in the caves. You've got suspicious characters. Got fun puzzles that aren't too challenging. You've got fun ways of transportation. You've got just a nice sense of progression too as you unlock different things on your GPS. Characters that tie in really nicely with the story. They all feel important. And I mean, really everything that makes the Nancy Drew games great at all those points they excel at in this game specifically. Which means if it's your first game, you're going to find some part of it that you'll enjoy. And then you can sort of use the parts that you enjoyed of the game to figure out what games you want to play next.
And I say that as well, this game also has quite the twist at the end. The ending to this game is definitely very tension-filled and quite exciting, if I'm honest. One thing that I can say for sure about this game is that you definitely won't get bored playing it, and I feel like for a new player, that's probably the most important thing you can think of.
Alright, so there you have it. Top 10 best Nancy Drew games for beginners. We hope you enjoyed this video, and remember guys, to always stay bodacious.
Stay bodacious.
I really thought we were going to do that at the same time, but I guess not.
Okay,
You
let's
tried.
try. 3, 2, on 1. After 1. After 1.
What?
It's
After
like
1.
3, 2, 1, stay bodacious.
Yeah.
Guys, we're not cutting this out to
3, 2, 1. Stay
bodacious.
We good?
Are we still rolling?
Thanks for reminding
Also
me.
making it into the video.